welcome to another episode of Commissioner's Corner. I'm Pacific West Regional Reporter Griffin Epstein. Today, Casey Dill, the Director of Baseball Operations of the Palm Springs Collegiate League, joins us. Casey, thanks so much for hopping on today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
And Casey, you led the Palm Springs Collegiate League to move their season from Palm Springs, where you traditionally played, to Ranger, Texas, where you guys had a month-long pod played. First, just kind of take us back to the early stages before it was played. How did that come about? And you guys were able to start playing baseball so early. You're really one of the first summer collegiate leagues in the whole country to start playing baseball in early June.
Yeah, it was a very big project. We knew pretty early on that we probably weren't going to be able to operate in California. Riverside County has been one of the most, one of the counties that have really kept things shut down. The stadium we usually use is city-owned, so the local government made the decision that they weren't going to be opening back up, and that was county-wide. Gyms were closed, restaurants were closed, and so we had a pretty good idea early on that we probably weren't going to be able to operate in California. So then the next thing was, well, where can we go? Where can we go? And it was a nationwide search, and we were looking at places all the way over to North Carolina. We were talking about moving it all the way on the other side of the country, and finding a county and a location that was safe with a facility that has everything we need: housing, baseball facilities, athletic, like training facilities. Finding the right location that was safe and that also had everything we needed to operate to the standards that we wanted was a very difficult project. And basically it was, let's talk to all the baseball people we know and let's see what's possible. And Scott Norwood, who's the head coach at Ranger College, he and I had never met before, but we both coached at Harris-Stowe State University. I was there a year before he got there, so through mutual friends, I was talking to the head coach at Harris-Stowe, and I said, "Hey, man, this is what we're looking at doing. Like, what do you think?" And at the time, Harris-Stowe's in St. Louis, and they were kind of closed down, so St. Louis wasn't an option. But he said, "Hey, why don't you look at Ranger, Texas?" And Ranger College is in Eastland County. Eastland County has only had 3 positive reported cases from the beginning of the COVID, crisis. So you're talking about 3 people in an entire county. So it was a very safe and isolated area. The college campus had everything we needed to operate. The players lived in the dorms on campus. They had 2 gym facilities. They had 2 baseball fields. They had indoor hitting facilities. So from a safety standpoint and an operational standpoint, just from us happening to know a mutual baseball friend, it was the location that ended up working out.
Take us through that last month of baseball. You guys finished just a couple weeks ago. You had 8 teams. Everyone played 20 games plus a little playoffs. How did everything work from the baseball and the diamond to the housing and health and safety protocols?
Everything went great. We ended up, you go into it and you don't really know what's going to happen. That was the uncertainty of the project. You think you're making the right decision based off of everything that you know, but who really knows what's going to happen when you get out to a place where you've never been? Like, we've never been there. So just knowing how little things are going to operate, like how are we going to do the laundry? How are guys going to get from living to the baseball facility to the athletic facility? How are guys going to get to where they get fed? So there's all these little logistical things that we had no idea about until we got out there. So it was a big risk, but again, thanks to the staff at Ranger College, as well as just a great coaching staff that we have in the PSCL. All the managers are current college coaches. We had a lot of guys that were returning managers that knew how the league operated. So we just had a lot of really good baseball people in our corner that helped us pull it off. From a baseball standpoint, the biggest thing was pitchers were coming off of 2 months of not throwing. Usually pitchers would be coming off of, hey, we just played a full college season. We've been practicing. We've been throwing. But every player was coming from a situation where some guys weren't even allowed to get on their baseball field in their communities. So the first week and a half, it was guys knocking off the rust. It was pitchers building their pitch counts back up. It was, the first time guys were seeing curveballs and sliders and that kind of stuff for the first time in months. So there was a little bit of, guys just getting back into the swing of things at the very beginning of the league. But by about halfway through the league, everybody's just playing baseball again. You know what I mean? And The baseball ended up being a really good level. The pitchers ended up building their arm strength back up, and you got really good baseball. And I thought it was just great for those guys that were able to make it out. So many college players went without college baseball this summer. Even leagues like the Cape Cod had folded. So you're talking about the highest levels of summer collegiate baseball not even operating. So the fact that we were able to go somewhere where the operation was able to operate, guys got on the field. We helped a lot of uncommitted guys find colleges that may have not otherwise if they didn't get to show up and play. So it really went about as smoothly as it possibly could, with the only tough thing being, hey, everyone's got to get back into the swing of things because we haven't been on a baseball field for a couple months right there at the beginning.
That's terrific. One thing that we have seen with a lot of baseball, obviously with MLB lately, has been outbreaks with COVID-19, and we've also seen multiple summer collegiate leagues either have to shut down or postpone. You guys were able to stay completely safe and healthy. You mentioned that the county you guys were in, about 90 minutes east of Dallas, had very few cases, but you were in a state that in June and July was really one of the epicenters in this country of COVID-19. What protocols were in place that you guys were able to keep everyone so healthy throughout the month?
Yeah, it did get interesting there when there were outbreaks in Dallas and Austin, and it's like, well, we're only 90 minutes away. We're not far away, but we had a very strict policy of everybody stays here on campus. Everyone's got to stay here. We did temperature checks every day. So every day when everyone reports to the field, there was temperature checks. If anyone ever ran a fever, and thankfully we never came across that program, they would be immediately directed to leave. We kept hand sanitizer in all the dugouts and all the housing facilities. We had full-time athletic training staff on site, so they were the ones that would check the temperatures every day, and we would log that every day. And if a guy didn't get his temperature checked, then he wouldn't play, or that guy's not allowed in the dugout until he gets his temperature checked. So there was a lot of just day-to-day, keeping after guys and making sure that, hey, everyone came in here safe. If we all stay on campus, we should remain safe. And if we continue to follow checking temperatures every day, utilizing the hand sanitizer in the dugout, not doing things like high-fiving. Like you even see it in Major League Baseball where they're doing the elbow bump or they're doing the fake high five, so just little things like that. We saw what Major League Baseball was doing, and we took a lot of what they were doing and said, okay, we're just going to apply what they're doing into what we're doing. And like I said, the big thing that we had was that we had no travel. Once you're in Ranger, Texas, you're in Ranger, Texas. I think where Major League Baseball may be having a little bit of an issue is they're traveling all over the place. They're in and out of airports and hotels, and now you see the NBA doing the bubble idea. So it'll be interesting to see the differences in what Major League Baseball is doing, versus what the NBA is going to be doing coming up, which is probably more similar to what we did.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the players, really were able to settle into playing some high level of baseball a couple weeks into the season. Did a lot of players come to Ranger that were originally committed to other collegiate leagues and maybe some of the very top collegiate leagues, such as the Cape Cod that you mentioned?
Yeah, no, there were a lot of guys out there looking for places to play, and we were limited on the number of players we were able to take to Ranger just based on the housing facilities. So, there was a point there where we really had to pick and choose who we were able to bring out. But one guy I'll bring up directly is Paul Kasanovich, who is a weekday starter or has been a weekday starter for University of Virginia. And he's, a legitimate professional prospect. He sits 90 to 92, and he topped 94 a few times. I'm actually in the process of writing a professional scouting report on him right now. Ranger College also has Flight Scope, which allows us to measure things like spin rate and all these different measurables that Major League Baseball is now using to make decisions. So another guy, Evan Berkey, who led the Northwoods League in hitting last year as a shortstop, starting shortstop for Cal State Bakersfield. So we did see an influx and rise in the level of talent probably last minute because we were able to pull off operating, whereas a lot of other leagues, and even now you see the Northwoods League operating, which is great, but it's still a limited number of franchises that were able to operate depending on which location they're in. So it definitely did increase the level of talent in the league. And I think as a result, you're going to see and I'll post this on my social media, you'll see more guys from the PSCL this year that end up signing professionally and end up going in the Major League draft down the road as a result.
Last question for you, Casey. We were talking about this before we started the interview about the changes across the baseball landscape, and they've really been accelerated by the pandemic. Minor league teams being cut, the MLB draft being shortened, NCAA eligibility limits changing, and obviously that's going to have ripple effects on summer collegiate baseball. With all these changes, what are the PCL's plans? Any changes going forward with summer collegiate baseball changing?
There's so much unknown about next year. We're still hoping that, there's a fall college season and then there's a spring college season. There's still a lot of unknowns there. Right now, we're planning on operating. There's nothing that says, a year from now, we're not going to be, good to go and good to operate. But there's still a lot of uncertainty across all levels of college baseball. And it's going to be us continually adapting to what's going on in college baseball that's beyond our control. And I think we've shown that we're committed to operating no matter what. And we've also shown that the way that in which we operate works, where there's no travel, where everybody's in one location. It eliminates so much risk when you take out the traveling from one community to the next. And so I think the way in which we operate kind of worked in perfectly to everything that has been going on. So we might be looking to operate in more than one location. Things went so well in Ranger this year. We might say, hey, we're going to run one in Palm Springs and in Ranger next year because the way in which we operate is safe and it works, And again, those are just some ideas we're kicking around right now. But we're waiting to see what happens in college baseball. I'm hoping that teams are able to be on the field in the fall. I know in California, a lot of community colleges and state schools have already said school's going online. So if school's going online, I would imagine that means there's probably going to be no fall sports, which what happens there? They're talking about putting the fall sports and making them into spring sports, which would then push spring sports back into the spring to where we would usually start in January. Maybe college sports don't start until April, or spring sports start until April now. So there's just so much uncertainty that we monitor on a daily basis, and we just continue to adapt. And I will say this, we're 100% committed to operating next year. I think we've shown that we could make it happen under difficult circumstances and keep everybody in our environment safe. So it's just rolling with the punches and seeing what happens.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Casey Dill, director of the Palm Springs Collegiate Baseball League. Really great to see that you guys were able to play some baseball this summer. It was so hard for so many players. It was awesome to have somewhere where players could really thrive on the diamond.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
That does it for this episode of the Commissioner's Corner. Thanks so much for tuning in. So long.